Before you listen to another word, I want you to ask yourself one question. How many years of your life have you spent waiting? Waiting for the right person, the right message, the right moment, believing that everything will finally make sense when your soulmate appears. But what if the very act of waiting is the one thing keeping you from the life you were meant to live? Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the person you've been searching for isn't the answer to your emptiness. Imagine discovering that the peace you've been chasing has never been hiding in someone else's empty. It has been quietly waiting to awaken within your own. Most people never reach this realization. They spend their lives searching outside themselves, never noticing that the door they've been trying to open has always been on the inside. Today's message may challenge everything you've believed about love, destiny, and soulmates. It may even make you uncomfortable, but sometimes the truth doesn't comfort us first. It transforms us. If you stay with me until the end, you may walk away with a completely different understanding of love, one that has the power to free you from endless waiting and help you become the very person you've been searching for all along. Many people spend years believing that life is divided into two chapters, the one before they meet their soulmate and the one after. Everything meaningful is postponed until that imagined arrival. They tell themselves that peace will come later, confidence will come later, happiness will come later, and even their true identity will finally emerge when the right person appears. This quiet belief often goes unnoticed because it hides behind hope. It sounds romantic, even noble, but beneath it lies a dangerous illusion. It teaches the mind to live in an imaginary future while ignoring the only place where life is actually unfolding, the present moment. The human mind naturally searches for completion. Whenever it feels something is missing, it invents an image capable of filling that empty space. Over time, this image becomes more vivid than reality itself. It becomes the perfect companion who will understand every silence, heal every wound, erase every fear, and give meaning to every unanswered question. The more detailed this fantasy becomes, the more ordinary life begins to feel. Daily experiences lose their color because they are constantly compared to a future that has never arrived. Instead of participating in life, the individual waits for permission to begin living. Waiting creates a subtle form of emotional paralysis. Dreams are delayed because they are meant to be shared someday. Adventures are postponed because they seem incomplete without someone beside you. Personal growth is slowed because the unconscious whispers that transformation can happen later once love appears. The tragedy is not simply the passing of time, but the gradual surrender of one's own authority. The future becomes the ruler of the present, and the imagined soulmate quietly becomes responsible for emotions that only the individual can truly cultivate. The illusion grows stronger through comparison. Watching others fall in love, marry, or build families can reinforce the belief that everyone else has reached the destination while you remain left behind. Social expectations amplify this feeling, suggesting that a person's worth is somehow measured by their relationship status. As these messages accumulate, loneliness begins to feel like evidence of failure rather than a natural human experience. Instead of asking who they are becoming, people ask only when someone else will finally arrive. Hope itself is not the problem. Hope gives direction and meaning during difficult seasons. The difficulty begins when hope transforms into dependency. The imagined future becomes so powerful that the present loses its significance. Every disappointment strengthens the fantasy instead of challenging it. Every passing year adds more emotional weight to the belief that one meeting, one relationship, or one person will finally unlock the life that has been waiting in the shadows. This illusion also changes the way people perceive themselves. They begin defining their identity through absence instead of presence. Rather than recognizing their talents, resilience, wisdom, curiosity, and capacity for love, they see only what they believe they lack. Their inner dialogue revolves around incompleteness. Even moments of success feel strangely empty because the mind insists they would matter more if they were shared with the imagined partner. As a result, gratitude slowly disappears, replaced by the constant sensation that life has just forgotten to deliver its most important promise. The deepest irony is that while someone waits for another person to complete their story, countless opportunities for growth, connection, creativity, and self-discovery quietly pass by unnoticed. Life continues offering lessons, friendships, purpose, beauty, and unexpected moments of transformation, yet the waiting mind overlooks them because it has become fixated on a single imagined event that is expected to change everything. Before two people can truly meet, something essential must first come together within one person. Every human being carries different forces inside themselves. There is the version shown to the world, organized, rational, confident, or carefully controlled. And then there is another part that remains hidden beneath daily awareness. This hidden side contains forgotten emotions, neglected dreams, unspoken fears, natural instincts, creativity, tenderness, and even qualities that were rejected long ago because they seemed unacceptable. As long as these inner parts remain strangers to one another, every relationship becomes an attempt to escape that inner division rather than heal it. Many people search for a soulmate because they believe another person will create inner peace. They imagine that love will silence their doubts, remove loneliness, and erase the uncomfortable feeling that something is missing. Yet whatever remains unresolved within eventually enters every relationship. Fear of abandonment becomes jealousy. Unhealed wounds become constant reassurance-seeking. Hidden insecurity becomes the need for endless validation. The relationship then begins carrying a burden it was never designed to hold. Instead of becoming a place where two whole individuals grow together, it becomes a stage where inner conflicts quietly replay themselves through another person. The deepest relationship is not the one between you and someone else. It is the relationship between your conscious awareness and the hidden regions of your own mind. When these parts begin communicating instead of fighting, something remarkable happens. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer driven entirely by fear. Emotions become easier to understand because they are no longer pushed into darkness. You stop running from uncomfortable feelings and begin listening to what they are trying to reveal. Every emotion, even sadness or disappointment, starts becoming a messenger rather than an enemy. Inner unity does not mean becoming perfect. It means becoming honest. It means admitting that strength and vulnerability can exist together. Confidence can stand beside uncertainty. Compassion can exist alongside healthy boundaries. Instead of trying to eliminate every contradiction within yourself, you begin recognizing that human beings are naturally complex. This acceptance creates stability because you are no longer wasting energy pretending to be someone who never struggles. As this inner connection grows, your dependence on external approval slowly weakens. Compliments become enjoyable rather than necessary. Rejection becomes painful without defining your value. Solitude transforms from a punishment into an opportunity for reflection. Silence becomes less frightening because you no longer feel abandoned by your own thoughts. The energy once spent searching for completion outside yourself begins nourishing your own development. People often believe that becoming whole means becoming emotionally independent, in the sense of never needing anyone. Genuine wholeness is different. It allows closeness without losing identity. It welcomes intimacy without demanding possession. It gives freely without secretly bargaining for self-worth in return. Love becomes a choice instead of a rescue mission. Another person is appreciated for who they truly are, rather than for the role they are expected to play in healing your past. When the hidden parts of your personality are acknowledged instead of denied, they stop controlling your life from the shadows. Creativity emerges where fear once lived. Wisdom grows where pain was once ignored. Compassion deepens because you have learned to extend understanding toward your own imperfections. The longing for a soulmate begins changing in nature. It is no longer the desperate search for someone to fill an inner emptiness, but the quiet openness to share an already meaningful life with another human being who is walking a similar path of self-discovery. One of the greatest mysteries of the human mind is its tendency to see in another person what it has not yet recognized within itself. What feels like immediate destiny, irresistible attraction, or an unexplainable connection is often shaped by something much deeper than the other person's actual character. The mind quietly projects its own hidden desires, forgotten qualities, and unmet emotional needs onto another individual. Instead of seeing who they truly are, it sees a living reflection of everything it believes is missing. This creates an emotional intensity that feels undeniable, yet its source often lies within rather than outside. Projection is not a conscious decision. It happens silently, beneath ordinary awareness. Someone appears unexpectedly, and almost instantly they seem extraordinary. Their smallest gestures feel significant. Their words carry unusual weight. Their presence seems capable of calming fears that have existed for years. The imagination begins filling in the spaces where real knowledge is absent. Ordinary qualities become extraordinary virtues. Small acts of kindness become proof of perfect compatibility. Uncertainty is replaced with certainty long before genuine understanding has had a chance to develop. This explains why people sometimes fall deeply in love with an image rather than a person. The image is built from their own inner world. Every hope, every dream, every longing for acceptance, safety, adventure, or healing becomes attached to someone else. The relationship no longer revolves around discovering another human being, but around protecting the fantasy that has been created. Whenever reality begins revealing imperfections, disappointment follows, not because the other person has changed, but because they were never the flawless figure the imagination invented. Many relationships become emotionally exhausting because each person unconsciously expects the other to carry impossible responsibilities. One hopes to finally feel worthy. Another hopes to finally feel secure. Someone seeks endless admiration, while the other seeks constant reassurance. Instead of meeting as two individuals, they meet as two collections of unresolved longings. Every disagreement feels larger than it truly is, because it threatens not only the spursive, but also the illusion that this person was supposed to complete everything that once felt incomplete. Genuine love begins where projection slowly dissolves. It requires the courage to separate imagination from reality. This does not reduce love, it deepens it. Instead of loving an idealized image, you begin loving a real human being with strengths, weaknesses, fears, contradictions, and imperfections. Their humanity no longer disappoints you, because you are no longer demanding perfection from four. Likewise, you no longer feel pressured to become someone unreal in order to deserve their affection. As self-awareness grows, many qualities once admired only in others begin emerging from within. The confidence you searched for in someone else's personality starts developing through your own experiences. The compassion you long to receive becomes something you naturally extend to yourself and others. The courage you admired in another gradually becomes part of your own character. What once appeared to exist only outside of you is revealed to have been dormant within all along, waiting for recognition instead of projection. This shift transforms the entire experience of love. Attraction remains, admiration remains, and emotional connection remains, but they are no longer driven by unconscious dependency. Instead of asking whether someone will rescue you from loneliness, you begin asking whether your values, character, and direction in life genuinely complement one another. Love becomes less about filling empty spaces and more about sharing an already growing life. The relationship is no longer built upon illusion or emotional hunger, but upon clarity, mutual respect, honest understanding, and the willingness to see each other as complete human life, beings, rather than symbols of unfinished dreams. One of the most overlooked truths about personal transformation is that the invisible always changes before the visible. Long before circumstances begin to shift, something quiet begins moving beneath the surface of the mind. It is not dramatic enough to be noticed by others, and sometimes not even by the person experiencing it. Yet this unseen movement becomes the foundation upon which every lasting change is built. The outer world rarely transforms first. It responds to an inner reorganization that has already begun. Most people expect life to provide external evidence before they allow themselves to feel different. They wait for the relationship to arrive before believing they are lovable. They wait for success before acting confidently. They wait for recognition before trusting their abilities. In doing so, they unknowingly surrender their inner state to external conditions. Their emotions become prisoners of circumstances that constantly change. Every setback weakens their confidence because it appears to confirm the belief that nothing has improved. Real transformation follows the opposite direction. A person begins thinking differently before speaking differently. They begin speaking differently before acting differently. They begin acting differently before their environment reflects those changes. This process requires patience, because the inner shift often appears long before visible results emerge. Just as a seed develops an entire root system beneath the ground before breaking through the soil, psychological growth spends much of its life hidden from immediate observation. When someone starts healing emotionally, the first signs are subtle. They no longer react to every criticism with the same intensity. They recover more quickly from disappointment. They stop replaying old conversations for hours. They become more comfortable with silence and less desperate for constant reassurance. Their decisions become guided by values instead of fear. None of these changes may attract attention from the outside, yet they represent profound shifts in the structure of the personality. Energy changes before reality, because perception changes before experience. The world people encounter is deeply influenced by the meaning they assign to it. Two individuals can face the same event while experiencing entirely different emotional realities. One sees rejection as proof of worthlessness, while another sees it as redirection. One interprets solitude as abandonment, while another experiences it as an opportunity for growth. The external event remains identical, but the inner landscape transforms its significance. As this inner landscape evolves, behavior naturally follows. A person who once tolerated unhealthy relationships begins establishing clear boundaries without forcing themselves to do so. Someone who constantly sought approval becomes more authentic because they no longer fear disappointing everyone around them. Opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly become noticeable because attention is no longer consumed by insecurity or self-doubt. Even conversations begin changing, not because others have become different overnight, but because the energy brought into those interactions has quietly matured. Many become discouraged during this stage because they expect immediate confirmation from the outside world. They wonder why life has not yet caught up with the changes they feel within. Yet every meaningful transformation contains a period where the old reality still appears, present, while the new identity is already taking shape beneath it. This interval tests faith in the process. It asks whether you can remain committed to inner growth even when external evidence has not fully appeared. The deepest transformations are often invisible until they become impossible to ignore. What begins as a quiet shift in perspective gradually reshapes habits, relationships, choices, opportunities, and direction. The outer world eventually reflects the patterns that have already become established within, revealing that lasting change was never born from circumstances alone, but from the silent evolution of the person observing them. There comes a moment in every person's emotional journey when they realize that the harder they chase love, the farther it seems to move away. This realization is not about giving up on love or becoming indifferent to human connection. It is about recognizing the difference between pursuing a meaningful relationship and desperately trying to fill an inner emptiness. The two may appear similar from the outside, but they arise from entirely different states of mind. One is rooted in confidence and openness, while the other is driven by fear, and the belief that happiness exists somewhere beyond the present moment. When people chase, they often do so because they believe they are incomplete without another person. Every message becomes a source of anxiety. Every delayed response feels like rejection. Every interaction carries the weight of proving their worth. Instead of allowing a relationship to develop naturally, they begin trying to control every outcome. They overanalyze conversations, constantly seek reassurance, and sacrifice parts of themselves in the hope of becoming more desirable. Without realizing it, they slowly trade authenticity for approval. Fear has a remarkable ability to disguise itself as love. It whispers that if you try harder, give more, wait longer, or change yourself enough, someone will finally choose you. Yet actions born from fear rarely create genuine closeness. They often create emotional exhaustion because the relationship becomes centered on avoiding loss rather than experiencing connection. Every act of affection secretly carries the expectation of receiving certainty in return, making love feel more like a negotiation than a free exchange between two individuals. Releasing the need to chase does not mean withdrawing from life or refusing to express affection. It means letting go of the belief that another person's choices determine your value. This shift changes everything. You stop measuring your worth by how much attention you receive. You become capable of expressing interest without losing your sense of self. You can care deeply without allowing another person's uncertainty to define your emotional stability. Your presence becomes calmer because it is no longer burdened by desperation. This inner freedom has a quiet but powerful effect on the way others experience you. People naturally feel more comfortable around someone who is emotionally grounded. There is no pressure to rescue them, validate them constantly, or fulfill impossible expectations. Conversations become more genuine because they are no longer guided by hidden agendas. Listening replaces convincing. Curiosity replaces performance. The relationship gains space to breathe because neither person is trying to force an outcome before trust has had time to grow. Life also begins responding differently when your actions are no longer dictated by fear. Opportunities that were once ignored become visible because your attention is no longer consumed by emotional obsession. Friendships deepen because you are fully present instead of mentally chasing someone unavailable. Creativity returns because your energy is invested in building your own life rather than constantly seeking confirmation from another person. Even moments of solitude become meaningful, providing clarity instead of loneliness. Paradoxically, the less you attempt to control every relationship, the more authentic your connections become. This is not because the universe rewards detachment with romance, but because authenticity creates conditions where real intimacy can develop. People are drawn toward those who know who they are, who respect themselves, and who are willing to love without abandoning their own identity. They sense the absence of manipulation, emotional dependence, and constant need for reassurance. When the impulse to chase finally dissolves, love ceases to feel like a race against time or a prize that must be earned through endless sacrifice. It becomes an encounter between two individuals who are each capable of standing on their own while choosing to walk together, allowing connection to grow through honesty, mutual respect, emotional maturity, and the quiet confidence that what is genuine never needs to be forced. Many people imagine that somewhere in the world there is a soulmate searching for them at this very moment, and that the meeting will happen simply because fate has decided it. While this belief offers comfort, it often overlooks a deeper truth. The most important journey is not the distance between two people, but the distance between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming. Relationships are deeply influenced by the state of the people who enter them. The person who eventually shares your life does not simply encounter your face or your name. They encounter your character, your emotional maturity, your habits, your fears, your strengths, and the quiet atmosphere that surrounds your presence. In many ways, they meet the version of you that your choices have created. Every experience shapes this version of yourself. Moments of disappointment teach resilience if they are faced honestly. Seasons of loneliness reveal hidden strengths that constant companionship might never uncover. Failures expose beliefs that no longer serve you, while unexpected successes uncover abilities you never realized existed. These experiences are not meaningless delays before love begins. They are the very process through which your inner life becomes richer, wiser, and more capable of sustaining genuine intimacy. Without this transformation, even the most promising relationship would struggle under the weight of unresolved patterns. People often believe they are waiting for someone else, but life is frequently preparing them to become someone different. The individual